This is a portion of the board's letter to Vince on December 27th, 2022, in response to Vince saying that he should come back. And the part of this letter that I'm going to read is this. Although we welcome your participation in the launch of a strategic alternatives review process, it remains our unanimous view. I want to emphasize that. It remains our unanimous view that your return to the company at this time, while government investigations into your conduct by the U.S. Attorney's Office and SEC are still pending, would not be prudent from a shareholder value perspective. This determination is based on a variety of factors, including non-public information the board has become aware of and the risks to the company and its shareholders of placing a greater spotlight on those issues. Unanimously, all the people on the screen right now, the members of the board of directors at this time, which let's just name them all: Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, Manjit Singh, Michelle McKenna, Joellen Lyons Dillon, Jeffrey Speed, Steve Payman, Alan Wexler, Steve Koonin, Ignacio Laoud. They unanimously agree that it's their view that it would not be prudent for Vince to come back. This determination is based on a variety of factors, including we're aware of information that the public is not aware of, and risks to the company and its shareholders. This non-public information the board has been aware of, and the risks to the company and its shareholders of placing a greater spotlight on these issues. So they're aware of information the public is not aware of, that if the public became aware of it, would cast WB and Vince in a negative light. They're aware of something that the rest of us don't know about. And then on January 5th, there's a communication that comes back after that from Vince. He's not happy with their response, clearly, in a very official and legal way. But on January 5th, Vince uses his controlling voting power to unilaterally force his way back into the company through with an instrument called written consent. Because he's a controlling shareholder, he can do it. He doesn't need anybody else's approval. He has 80% of the votes. He forces his way back into the company. And then we have, as a part of that process, Jeffrey Speed is removed. Alan Wexler is removed. These are two independent directors. For anybody who doesn't know, a board of directors is meant to oversee the executives in the company. There's supposed to be many independent members. There were, but there also are some executive members. Basically, independent members are people who have jobs elsewhere, or they're retired from their previous job. They've left their previous job. Like we have, say, Michelle McKenna here, I believe is the former chief information officer of the NFL. She no longer works as a full-time executive, but she serves on a board. Manjit Singh's a former Sony executive, no longer works for Sony, but he serves on a board, and so forth. And we have some people who, like Steve Payman, who's I believe the CEO of Rezus, is the company that was that held Fight in it anyway. And then we have Steve Koonin, who is the CEO of State Farm Arena and the Atlanta Hawks. So these are part-time participants overseeing the governance of WWE, as well as some full-time executives, including for a time Stephanie McMahon, Paul Levesque. Vince removes Jeffrey Speed and Alan Wexler. There's already a free spot because we've had, not pictured here, we've had Connor Schell resign from the board in recent months. Erica Nardini-Ayers resigned from the board in recent months. Anyway, Vince removes Wexler and Speed, adds himself, adds Michelle Wilson and George Barrios, the former co-presidents of WWE, adds them back to the board. Presumably they're on the same page as him. He wants to come back not only to the board, but come back as executive chairman. So presumably Barrios and Wilson are down with that plan. So here we are. We've got Vince, George, and Michelle back on the board. As soon as he does this, Manjit Singh resigns. Ignacio Laoud resigns, two independent members. And then 5 days later, on January 10th, they have a vote to approve of Vince, or disapprove, I suppose, of Vince as executive chairman. At that time, Stephanie McMahon resigns from all roles as an executive and from the board, which is different than what she did in the prior May, where she only resigned from her role as executive and stayed on the board. In any case, at this point, the investigation, which is concluded in the prior November, has uncovered whatever it uncovered, or whatever maybe it didn't. We have Jeffrey Speed telling the New York Times in recent weeks that there was outreach, whatever outreach means, to Janelle Grant. Grant's complaint says that they didn't interview her, that they didn't request documents from her. Question: how much further knowledge of alleged misconduct did Nick Khan and Paul Levesque have following that investigation? Regardless, the board, the remaining members of the board, who are now at this point Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, Michelle McKenna, Joel and Lyons Dillon, Steve Payman, Steve Koonin, Vince himself, George and Michelle, they unanimously elect Vince McMahon as executive chairman on January 10th. With members of the board who, remember, were part of this investigation. Steve Koonin, by the way, is still a member of the TKO board. All these other independent members are not. Nick is a member of the TKO board as well. Nick is the president, the number one officer in WWE today. Paul Levesque is obviously the chief content officer in WWE. I would say the number two officer in WWE today. Steve Koonin is still on the TKO board. Okay. In light of whatever they were aware of from the investigation, which, by the way, are aware of something that's not public, according to their December 27th letter. But then on January 10th, they are among the board members who unanimously elect Vince to be chair. And my question would be, in light of that, in light of whatever they learned from the investigation, why were they at that point willing to approve Vince McMahon as chair? Because they did so because they were part of this unanimous election. This is important, again, because Nick Khan is the leading officer in WWE. Paul Levesque is the number two officer in WWE. Steve Koonin, for that matter, is still a member of TKO's board of directors. Why were Manjit Singh, Ignacio Laud, Stephanie McMahon not comfortable with going along with this, but those members were? Did the WWE board investigation just not unearth the details that are alleged in the Janelle Grant lawsuit or other, at this point, publicized allegations? Or did they reach out to Grant and did they get a different story? Let us know. Was there a lack of effort on the board's part to actually investigate these claims, as Janelle Grant alleges? Or was approving of Vince McMahon as chair for members like Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, Steve Koonin, was it merely a matter of self-preservation? Was it merely a matter of putting their own positions in WWE above workplace safety? Do these leaders view the allegations as not serious enough to keep Vince out? Was it something that they felt would simply blow over? As Nick Khan indicated in his interview that he did within a couple weeks of this with Bill Simmons' podcast. I think we have that clip here.
So I think it was always my point of view, always Stephanie's point of view. At some point, he would come back. I think the way that he played it, to me, was smart, Bill, in that he went away for 5-6 months, which people, meaning the audience, seems to like when somebody does that. And he came back and took control back of his company as a control shareholder. So it is the public's company, as a publicly traded company, but with that controlling share, gave him a lot of authority, and he used it, and I applaud him for doing so.
Nick Khan applauds him for doing so. Is there more to this story? Are there things that the public doesn't understand that would make people like Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, Steve Koonin look less complacent about sexual misconduct in the workplace? Let us know. And it's true, by the way, Vince McMahon had essentially threatened, in his own message to the board, to prevent any media renewals or company transactions unless he returned to the company. Is that a part of the calculation? Did Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, and Steve Koonin see that as a justification to elect Vince as chair? Manjit Singh and Ignacio Laud and Stephanie McMahon all resigned from the board, either on the day that Vince put himself back on the board or on the day that he was to be elected chair, which suggests that there was some diversity in opinion here. What was the conversations? What were the conversations at that time like? Why did Nick, Paul, Steve Koonin, why were they willing to go along with this based on what they implied that they all knew on December 27th? Is it a matter of weighing accountability for alleged misconduct against shareholder value to protect the company because we need to get media renewals here for the good of the company? Why were they willing to put shareholder value above accountability if that's the case? Why was Manjit Singh, Ignace Laoud, Stephanie McMahon not willing to do so? What was their thought process? We can guess, we can infer, but we don't know, and those questions haven't been answered.